Last year when Mumbai was flooded, almost every environment specialist and urban planner had predicted this will happen again and again. It's scary how easy it is to make this prediction, and you don't really have to be a qualified urban specialist to do so. Year after year, screaming headlines and heated debates yield little or no results. Nobody really knows how things will change for India's financial capital, which has become a very sorry story globally every monsoon. On Urban Reality today, our attempt is to piece together some solutions, because it simply cannot be that there are none. Let me introduce you to my panelists, but before that, here are some citizen voices of Mumbai city, even as they struggle today to find their feet in a city which is half submerged.
तरह की स्थिति देखिए लगता है संगाई बन जाएगा ये।
कभी नहीं सर, कभी नहीं हो सकता ऐसा।
देखो इसमें क्या बुलेट ट्रेन चलेगा?
ये बुलेट ट्रेन के लिए जगह है ये।
पानी वहाँ पे वाटर खींचने का मशीन था, वो भी हटा लिए ये लोग। कम से कम करोड़ रुपए खर्चा किए यहाँ पे आगे हिंद माता में। करोड़ रुपए खर्चा करने के बावजूद भी देखो ये हाल है। मैं तो बोलता हूँ उससे भी ज्यादा पानी भर गया है।
सब गटर के बंद है और ये कभी कुछ नहीं हुआ। मशीन लगा कुछ काम का नहीं, अभी तक कुछ भी नहीं हुआ, कोई फर्क नहीं है। किले कितना ही जोर से बारिश गिरेगा तो आधा घंटा लगेगा, कोई मतलब नहीं है।
मुश्किल तो है ही ना सर ट्रैवल करना। कितनी पानी भरी हुई है आगे, आधे पौने घंटे से तो यहीं पे बैठे हुए हैं। कब पहुंचेंगे कब आएंगे मालूम नहीं।
चलता है तो आम बात है, पिछले 30-40 साल से यही होता है, तो कोई नई बात नहीं है।
जगह जगह पानी भर गया है, बिल्डिंग में लॉबी में अंदर पानी आ रहा है। सुबह सुबह आने जाने के लिए थोड़ा दिक्कत हो रहा है।
कोई नई बात नहीं है, and this is what's the most worrying part of Mumbai today. Madhav Pai, Director India WRI, India Sustainable Cities, Shaina NC BJP spokesperson and a Mumbai resident. We also have with us Ashwin Mahesh, an urbanist, joining us today on this discussion. I think let's just start with a very simple question, Shaina, and this one is for you. I know that there have been different voices, and one of the strongest defense which has come forth from the government and civic agencies is that this was abnormal rain and not really a failure of workable plan. Would you really defend that?
Well, I think there are a couple of points. Irregular rain patterns that one has been seeing year after year, panning out from June going up until October. Yes, there has been some incessant rain and adverse reactions to weather climates which have been totally out of control. But also the topography of Mumbai, where you have so many low-lying pockets coupled with the high tide, you're bound to have flooding at certain pockets, whether it's Sion, Vadala. If you go into the suburbs, then Kalyan, Dombivli, Thane, Nala Sopara, Bhivandi and Vasai Virar being the worst in terms of planning and other avenues as well. I don't want to put our hands up and say that we are not accountable. Clearly the state government has said that even if the municipal corporations need to do their job, it is for us as an overviewing body to ensure that we have systemic working between multiple agencies. This could be the local municipal corporations, the MSRDC, the MMRDA, the railways, and multiple such agencies that are responsible.
Okay, Madhav Pai, you know, Shaina has laid out some ground rules. She's saying, look, we are not saying that we are not responsible or civic agencies, but a lot of work was done, yet things have not improved for that city. Flooding is now almost an annual ritual. I think environmentalists have already established that these kind of heavy rainfall and the abnormal rainfall patterns are going to concentrate it over a few days is not going to be an exception, it's going to be a norm. So what is really the answer?
No, I agree with you. It's a norm, and it's probably going to get worse over time, you know, just given how much the temperatures are rising. So I think, you know, now we need to really start thinking about how do we build resilient infrastructure. You know, the stormwater drains can only carry a certain amount of water. I think, you know, local level plans of where, you know, you identifying places where water can get stored or logged, you know, so you identify places so that you can let water locally run off to these places, identifying places, whether it's schools or other things that can be used in case of power shortages and other things. So, you know, you have to start thinking about building resilient infrastructure. We need to rethink the materials we use. You know, we have been paving so much of the city. I think, you know, when I was growing up, our building compound was basically mud, and today it's all paved for cars. You need to start thinking of permeable surfaces. So clearly there has to be a rethinking of how you engineer the city in the light of the fact that, you know, climate is going to change. You're going to have these bigger, stronger spells of rain, and and that the stormwater system can only be, you know, accommodated to a certain extent. So I think that planning has to come in place. Having said that, I mean, systems that get built, I mean, the newly opened rail crossing at the Curry Road station had like leaks in the roof, was, you know, water was flowing. So there was clearly no consideration in design to sort of this heavy downpour. And I think so one is that I think engineering now has to think about it from a resilience perspective, how you can expect this rain, and then how do you design for it. That's one thing that we need to do, and massively train and rethink how engineers in our city work. And then I think whatever we do, I mean, and this is what you know, China was also saying, is, you know, potholes, etc. I mean, those kinds of things need to get solved, because we can't get caught behind those kinds of things. So.
Okay. All right. We also have Dayanand Stalin. He's an activist and project director at NGO Vanashakti. He's joined us as well. Mr. Stalin, you know, there's public outrage, anger against civic authorities and local government. But, you know, the fact is that the city gets caught unawares just every time. Do you think resilient rethinking how you're going to build Mumbai now is the base of solving this problem?
To start with, I would say look at the last 5 years. Every year it gets worse and worse, and every year we get the same old assurances that we are ready for rain, we will be better prepared, and all that rubbish. The fact is that every so-called development which has happened to create real estate for the developers. If you see the walls that are built on the rivers, on the creeks, these are all impediments for the discharge of flood waters. There are no floodplains. There is no place where the seawater and the stormwater can meet and interact till it is low tide. This is very simple, the simple fact of it. The problem is when you prevent the water from spreading onto the salt pans, when you prevent the river floodlanes to be from being constructed, when you keep it open, then you will have lesser floods. It's a low-lying city, face it, and everything cannot be concentrated in Mumbai. Leave some spaces for the water to go and clash with the seawater and go away when it is low tide. No matter who tells you what, I'll come here on, I am telling you on this show that no amount of engineering solutions will allow you the luxury of sitting without a flood coming in here. You will have severe floods every year after year, no matter how much money you spend. The answer is to remove those blessed walls which are kept on the salt pans, on the river sides, and allow the water to spread out and wait till it is low tide. We are under the tidal influence. We need to remember that fact. You cannot conquer the sea. No one has done it so far. That is the bottom line. But if you see, this kind of talk isn't coming up from anyone. Everyone is talking about how new pumps will be fitted. Where are you going to pump the water into? It's not going into outer space. It's going to come back into your drains. If you go to Dadar, Shivaji Park, you will see that the sea has come in. It has touched the mayor's bungalow and it's coming well onto that road there. And what are you talking about? When there is so much of ingress, where is the place?
Okay, Mrs. Stalin, what you're proposing is quite, let's say, you know, revolutionary. You're saying you have to stop building altogether, and you probably have to take down some walls where you're stopping water backflow into the sea, because you can't stop the sea from behaving as it is. Agree with you, it's a very, 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 very big challenge. Ashwin, Mahesh, what do? You can't stop building, can you, in a city like Mumbai? Or maybe that's a new kind of thinking one needs?
See, it's a complex thing. We have to accept that. The reality is that because the environment is changing, there is greater occurrence of frequent events of intensity. There's more rain that falls in high volume again and again. At the same time, there's an economic reality also. The city, for example, gets 1,200 people per day moving into the city. The number of housing units that are sanctioned to be built is not even half of that. So virtually half the people that are coming into the city have to live in some kind of makeshift arrangement. And these makeshift arrangements don't follow any planning regime. Ultimately, we have to create a planning regime in which we anticipate problems and solve them by measuring what is going on as well. in the 74th Amendment in 1992, it was said that every major metropolitan area will have a certain kind of planning authority. And the planning authority will do this and look at all the relationships between the economy, between housing, between mobility, between resources, and all of that together. No major city in India has implemented this framework. We think that if we ignore the law, we think that if we sort of just go on in an ad hoc manner, we will always be able to respond to situations as they arise. The fundamental flaw today is in administration being in responsive mode rather than in proactive mode. And unfortunately, ordinary people end up bearing the brunt of this thing. This is not the kind of problem that you can solve.
I think you raised a very important point. Let me go back to Shaina. I'll come back to you, sir. Shaina, administration being in the responsive mode rather than being in a proactive mode. Now, this is across all Indian cities. Mumbai bears the brunt because of the monsoon outlash. But tell me one thing. I mean, is the government aware of the fact that, look, with the weather changing, with the rainfalls pattern changing, we have to think through even something like a Mumbai development plan, because right now there is nothing in that plan which talks about how to deal with this kind of incessant rainfall?
Yeah, so I think that we should actually take the learning from Vasai Virar, because Vasai Virar is a case of absolute misuse of power, where people have given permissions to builders to build just any way they wanted to, ad hoc. A certain family that has controlled the area.
Shaina, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I would not agree. Maybe Vasai Virar was the worst affected because of a lot of construction permits not given. I mean, right there in Worli, you have tall buildings, and these are apartments being sold at 10 crores, 20 crores, and water flowing from those projects right onto SPV Road. So it's not. Vasai Virar may be the worst affected, Shaina, but it's all over Mumbai.
Can I complete my point?
Yes.
Thank you for interjecting, but can I complete my point? What am I trying to arrive at? That if you have bad planning, where you have construction on mangroves and areas where you cannot have buildings, you will have floods. What one of your earlier panelists said is absolutely correct. Let's concede to the fact that Mumbai is reclaimed land, and a lot of this is low-lying pockets. I do agree that if you have pumping stations, but where are we going to pump out the water? Do understand the disaster management team this time did a fantastic job. Very few people would want to acknowledge it, but you go on Twitter and you will have some honest Mumbaikars who say that the way they were standing on the streets, containing the water, seeing that, you know, we have systems in place is also something worthy of praise. So let's not just constantly sit here and criticize and say, you know, this happens year after year. Think of what the solutions are. Come up with conclusive solutions. Now the damage has been done. How do we move forward? We move forward with, if we have our neighboring smart cities all equipped, properly planned, and not being subject to this kind of a flooding as we have seen.
So upgradation of infrastructure and relooking at how the city is planned, civic coordination, lots of solutions here. But what Mumbai really needs, as per a McKinsey report, is $220 billion of investment in hard infrastructure and smart technology to become future-proof for the next 20 years. And we're still talking just next 20 years. We're going to come back and look at where will that money come from.